That rainy Friday night at New York's Plaza Hotel looked like any other shift. Fancy guests, designer luggage, and that quiet buzz of old money. But when his eyes landed on the surveillance screen, his pulse jumped. Right there, walking through the gleaming lobby, was a woman in an elegant black coat and oversized shades. Chic, mysterious, unbothered, but it wasn't her that froze him in place, it was the man beside her. The face he'd seen on 100 magazine covers. The man whose smile had just graced the biggest wedding photos of the year. Only thing was, this wasn't Jeff Bezos. See, just 3 months earlier, the entire world had watched Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez live out what looked like a real-life billionaire fairy tale. Their $15 million Maui wedding was the headline of the decade. A private beach draped in imported orchids, champagne flowing like rivers, and a guest list that made the Met Gala look basic. Jeff, the tech titan who reshaped global shopping, and Lauren, the fiery ex-TV host who stole his heart right after his painful split from Mackenzie Scott, they were Hollywood's new royal couple. The whole thing was cinematic. Bezos had literally rented out an entire resort for their I-do's, flying in 200 of the most powerful people on Earth in private jets. Picture this: the Pacific waves crashing beneath a cliff at sunset, Lauren gliding down an aisle dusted with white Bahamian sand, her Valentino gown glittering like moonlight. 6 months in the making. Jeff, looking crisp in an Armani tuxedo worth more than most people's homes. At the reception, power met luxury. Bill Gates clinking glasses with Oprah. Leonardo DiCaprio deep in conversation with Warren Buffett about saving the planet. Even Obama stepped up to toast, love conquering all. Then, Beyoncé's voice soared through the ocean breeze, followed by John Legend at the piano, as fireworks spelled out Jeff and Lauren forever. Forever. Yeah, that's what everyone thought. But if that Plaza Hotel footage was what it looked like, forever was about to go up in flames, and Lauren Sanchez, as always, was right at the center of the spotlight. Now, this was the kind of scandal that could make or break a $170 billion empire. At 54, Lauren Sanchez was still the kind of woman who could stop traffic without even trying. That radiant smile, those sharp cheekbones, the glossy waves of dark hair. She carried the kind of beauty that doesn't fade. It evolves. Once the golden face of Los Angeles television, she now played her most glamorous role yet. The wife of one of the richest men alive. On red carpets, she was flawless. Every step, every pose, every glance perfectly choreographed. On Instagram, she was the picture of love and power. Her and Jeff side by side, their smiles curated for millions of likes. But like any Hollywood fantasy, the cracks started behind the scenes. Invisible at first, then impossible to ignore. Lauren's story had always been a cocktail of hustle, ambition, and reinvention. Born in Albuquerque to hardworking Mexican immigrant parents, she'd built herself from the ground up. A local news intern turned helicopter pilot turned entertainment correspondent. Twice married before she landed Bezos, first to NFL star Tony Gonzalez, then to Hollywood agent Patrick Whitesell. Each marriage ended with whispers that Lauren's ambition burned a little too bright. A wandering eye, a restless heart, a woman who always wanted more. That was the quiet gossip in LA long before Bezos came into the picture. But after the wedding of the century, the fairy tale started to sour. Friends who'd known them since the beginning began noticing it. The way Lauren's smile seemed tighter, her words sharper. The once doting wife was getting restless. Even during their honeymoon phase, Bezos's inner circle started talking. Lauren, who used to be so polished and careful with her image, started acting different, bolder, reckless. She hired a personal stylist for $50,000 a month, started hopping on private jets without a word, and showed up at high-profile events solo. No Jeff in sight. And the spending? Astronomical. In the first month alone, she burned through $2 million on jewelry, $500,000 on clothes, and another $300,000 on spas and cosmetic treatments. When Jeff started questioning the bills, the conversations turned cold. He's become way too controlling. Lauren vented to her girlfriends over lunch at Nobu Malibu, swirling her wine with irritation. "He wants to know where I am, who I'm talking to, what I'm spending money on. This isn't marriage, it's a prison with golden bars. He tracks my phone, has security follow me, and freaks out if I buy anything over 10 grand. Her close friend, reality TV firecracker Kim Richards, later told investigators that Lauren's unhappiness was impossible to hide. She had everything, Kim said. Money, power, fame, but she felt trapped. Jeff had her schedule locked tighter than Fort Knox. Charity events, photo shoots, business dinners. She didn't even have time to breathe. And while Lauren was unraveling under the weight of luxury, Bezos was slipping deeper into his work. The man who built an empire was trying to fix his marriage with spreadsheets and structure. But he didn't realize that the real chaos was already brewing, right behind his back. After the wedding, Jeff Bezos threw himself right back into the grind, harder than ever. While most newlyweds were sipping champagne and basking in honeymoon bliss, Jeff was chasing rockets, AI breakthroughs, and billion-dollar deals. Blue Origin was his obsession, artificial intelligence his new playground, and global domination still his favorite sport. 16-hour workdays became normal. Weekends, just an extension of the boardroom. To the outside world, it looked like Bezos was trying to prove a point, that love hadn't softened him, that he was still the same ruthless visionary who built Amazon from scratch. But here's the cruel irony. The man who could predict exactly what the world wanted to buy couldn't figure out what his own wife needed. He flooded Lauren with diamonds, designer dresses, and a $40 million yacht that gleamed under the Mediterranean sun. But not once did he slow down enough to actually see her. He gave her the world, but never gave her his time. And that's when fate, or temptation, decided to crash the Bezos love story. It started at a charity auction at the Met 3 months ago. The room glittered with New York's elite, CEOs, heiresses, and old money draped in couture. But even in that sea of power and sparkle, Lauren Sanchez stole every eye. Her Versace gown clung to her curves like it was sewn onto her skin, her hair falling effortlessly over her shoulders, that signature confident smirk in place. Cameras flashed. Whispers followed. But one man's gaze lingered longer than the rest. Marcus Romano. 45, Italian-American, Wall Street royalty. A partner at Goldman Sachs with a smile that could melt ice, and a reputation that could start fires. He was tall, sharply dressed, and dangerously charming. His silver hair and stormy gray eyes screamed confidence, and everyone in Manhattan knew his name for one reason. He was the Shark. Ruthless in business, reckless in love, and always 2 steps ahead. His net worth sat somewhere around $200 million. Impressive, sure, but next to Bezos, it was pocket change. Still, Marcus didn't need money to win people over. He had that thing Jeff had lost: presence. When Lauren's eyes met his across the room, something inside her shifted. Jeff was right beside her, locked in some dry conversation about museum funding, but she didn't hear a word. Her pulse quickened. It was like she'd suddenly remembered what it felt like to want someone, and to be wanted back. Marcus noticed it instantly. That flicker of loneliness behind the diamonds, the hunger behind the smile. He'd seen it 100 times before. The look of a woman trapped in luxury, starving for something real. He didn't approach her that night. No, he was too smooth for that. Instead, he made sure she saw him, laughing easily with other women, charming, alive, everything her husband hadn't been in months. And when fate handed them a second-chance encounter, it was no accident. Lauren told her security detail she was going shopping at Bergdorf Goodman, but instead, she slipped into a quiet French bistro on the Upper East Side, Le Jardin d'Ain, a place where the paparazzi never bothered to look. 10 minutes in, she sat alone, scrolling through Instagram, stirring her cappuccino when the door opened. And there he was, Marcus Romano, in the flesh. Their eyes locked again, and this time the spark didn't just flicker. It ignited. Marcus's voice slid through the air like silk. "What are the odds?" he said, flashing that slow, confident smile that made her stomach twist with excitement. The most beautiful woman in New York, sitting alone in my favorite cafe." His tone was teasing but sharp. He knew exactly what he was doing. Then, leaning in just enough to invade her space, he added, "You look lonely, for a woman who supposedly has everything." Lauren's lips curved, but her pulse betrayed her. "And you look dangerous, for a man who claims to want nothing," she shot back, her voice low and steady, even as adrenaline raced through her veins. From that moment, the world around them seemed to melt away. The chatter of the cafe faded, replaced by the intoxicating rhythm of two people who knew they were stepping into something forbidden. Marcus was everything Jeff wasn't: spontaneous, magnetic, and impossibly present. He asked about her childhood in New Mexico, her dreams before fame, her fears. And he listened. Really listened. No phone buzzing, no glances at his watch. Just eyes locked on hers, studying her like she was the only story worth telling. It was a spy game, and she was learning the rules. 2 phones now. Her regular one that Jeff's security team tracked, and a burner Marcus had slipped into her bag. She memorized his calendar, knew which hours it was safe to text. She mapped back routes through hotel kitchens and service elevators, learned which restaurants had hidden entrances, and began changing her appearance for their rendezvous. Dark glasses, hats, wigs, outfits no one would associate with Lauren Sanchez. Marcus loved it. The subterfuge, the adrenaline, the thrill of outmaneuvering one of the most powerful men on Earth. It was a high for him, too. Their afternoons together became a heady mix of lust and confession, lying in bed with champagne and secrets. She told him about the little girl in Albuquerque who once dreamed of being a famous actress, of writing a tell-all about her TV years, of disappearing to a tiny Italian village where no one knew her name. Marcus opened up, too, about the loneliness of his wealth, about feeling unloved despite his power, about his own fantasy of leaving Wall Street to make wine in his family's Tuscan vineyard. Together, they built a dream. He would sell his stake in Goldman Sachs. She would divorce Jeff. They'd vanish to Tuscany, buy a vineyard, have the children she'd always wanted, but Jeff had kept postponing. They'd grow old surrounded by olive trees and fermenting wine, far from boardrooms and headlines, but even the most careful conspiracies leave fingerprints. Lauren's personal driver, Miguel Santos, a former NYPD detective, began noticing the patterns. Routes that didn't match her stated destinations. Strange stops, long waits outside unfamiliar buildings. He started keeping a quiet log, unsure what to do. And Emma Chen, Lauren's personal assistant, saw inconsistencies creeping into her boss's immaculate schedule. Restaurant receipts from places Lauren swore she'd never been. Flower delivery confirmations to mysterious addresses. Designer clothing charges for items that never arrived in her closet. Emma was torn, between loyalty and suspicion, between protecting her employer and acknowledging the truth. Because piece by piece, the illusion of the perfect marriage was unraveling, and the trail was starting to show. Inside the Bezos estate in Medina, whispers began to spread like wildfire. Staff who'd once seen Lauren as the picture-perfect billionaire's wife now noticed a dangerous new glow about her. Happier, yes, but secretive in a way that sent chills through the air. Mysterious bouquets with no cards kept arriving. She'd vanish for hours at a time, her private office door locked as she took hushed calls no one dared to interrupt. For Mrs. Rodriguez, the sharp-eyed head of household with 3 decades in the service of the ultra-rich, the signs were unmistakable. This wasn't just a restless wife. This was an affair unfolding under a billionaire's roof. But what Lauren thought was invisible was, in fact, leaving a trail as bright as neon. She'd begun using cash for purchases, opening secret credit cards, shopping at stores she'd never set foot in before. Every move left a digital footprint, a footprint just waiting to be followed by the right person. And then came the fatal misstep. On Valentine's Day, intoxicated by passion, Lauren forgot to disable the GPS on her phone. For most wives, this would be a minor mistake. But Lauren wasn't just anyone. Jeff Bezos's private security, run by ex-NSA operatives, tracked every family member's movements for safety. when her phone showed 4 full hours inside the Plaza Hotel, a day she'd sworn she was at a Connecticut medical spa, David Kumar, Bezos's head of personal security, knew something was off. At first, he chalked it up to a glitch, but when he cross-checked her credit card activity, the truth flashed like a neon sign. High-end restaurant bills, boutique purchases, all clustered around the plaza that same day. The story she'd fed her husband unraveled instantly. For Kumar, the realization was a nightmare. His job was to protect the Bezos family from threats. But what if the real threat wasn't from hackers or stalkers, but from Lauren herself? After sleepless nights, professional duties smothered his personal loyalty. He launched a covert investigation, one more suited to taking down rival corporations than monitoring a billionaire's wife. He pulled credit card records, analyzed phone metadata, even tapped into Manhattan's traffic cameras. The evidence piled up fast, each new piece confirming the worst. Lauren was leading a double life. Then came the bombshell. In the digital shadows of his surveillance, one name kept surfacing: Marcus Romano. Not just any man, but a Wall Street shark infamous for hostile takeovers and whispered rumors of ruthless bedroom tactics. The deeper Kumar dug, the darker it got. Romano had a history of seducing the wives of powerful men whose companies mysteriously became vulnerable to his clients soon after. A pharmaceutical CEO, a hedge fund titan, and now Jeff Bezos' wife. This wasn't just infidelity, it smelled like espionage. Jeff didn't want rumors. He wanted proof. That night, he ordered a full-scale surveillance op on the Plaza Hotel. High-powered cameras, access to the hotel's private security feed. Nothing left to chance. At exactly 3:30 p.m., Lauren stepped into the lobby in a black coat and oversized sunglasses, slipping into the elevator like a seasoned spy. 15 minutes later, Marcus Romano entered through a discreet side door, heading to the same floor. The trap was set. The truth was about to explode. The elevator doors slid shut, sealing their secret in steel and silence, but not from the ever-watchful eyes of Jeff Bezos' security. Hidden cameras caught everything: the soft brush of her hand against Marcus's cheek, his whispered words melting into her laughter. That smile, wide, genuine, unguarded, the kind of joy she never showed her husband. For 3 stolen hours inside Suite 1205, Lauren Sanchez wasn't living a lie. She was living her truth, wild, reckless, and doomed. But when she stepped out at 6:45 p.m., glowing with the aftertaste of forbidden love, she had no idea that every kiss, every touch, every glance had already been captured in perfect, devastating detail. To the world, Jeff Bezos was the richest man alive. But in that moment, watching the footage of his wife kissing another man, he was just another husband. Heartbroken, humiliated, and human. The affair wasn't what cut deepest. It was seeing her happy in a way she never was with him. That, more than betrayal, shattered him. Today, Jeff Bezos lives quietly behind the tall evergreens of his Medina estate, his empire still vast, but his circle smaller. He pours his focus into Blue Origin and the Earth Fund, chasing dreams beyond this world while trying to heal what broke inside him on it. Friends say he's changed, less trusting, more introspective, and painfully aware of how wealth can isolate a man from real love. Lauren, meanwhile, returned to Los Angeles, the city that made her and then almost destroyed her. The $50 million settlement secured her future, but not her peace. In Hollywood, whispers never die. Gold digger. Manipulator. The woman who played the world's richest man. Labels that followed her like shadows she couldn't escape. In one rare interview, her voice trembled as she said, "The most expensive mistakes don't cost you money. They cost you the people you love." And with that, their story, one built on desire, deception, and dreams, faded from the headlines. But behind closed doors, both of them still live with the same haunting question. Was it love, or just the illusion of it? Then came the question that cracked her open. "Tell me," Marcus said, voice barely above a whisper, "when was the last time someone made you feel truly alive?" Lauren froze. She couldn't answer, because she didn't know. Somewhere between the glitz of red carpets and the cold precision of Jeff's empire, she'd lost herself. The woman who once chased breaking news from helicopters, who thrived on adrenaline and ambition, had turned into a carefully curated ornament in a billionaire's life. And so the meetings continued. First once or twice a week, then every day. Hidden rendezvous in private clubs under fake names, dimly lit restaurants in the suburbs, art galleries during off-hour viewings. Every encounter was a secret wrapped in danger, and she was addicted to the thrill. Lauren confided everything. How she felt like one of Jeff's prized possessions, admired but untouched. How romance with him had become just another scheduled event between investor meetings and board calls. Their intimacy, she said, had become efficient, cold, predictable. Jeff made love like he closed deals, strategically, on time, and without emotion. Marcus, though, was the perfect listener. He knew this world. The wealth, the walls, the loneliness that money couldn't buy away. But he also gave her something Bezos never did: the intoxicating illusion of being wanted. He flooded her days with cryptic notes and surprise gifts. Diamond earrings hidden in her purse, handwritten letters slipped into her car. He made her feel young again, reckless, alive. By their fourth meeting, there was no going back. Marcus invited her to his Park Avenue penthouse, 5,000 square feet of pure temptation. Floor-to-ceiling windows gazed over Central Park. Italian marble gleamed under soft lights, and abstract art worth millions watched silently from the walls. Jeff was in Los Angeles for a Prime Video deal. Lauren told her driver she was headed to a spa in the Hamptons, then switched to an Uber under a fake name, cash in hand, heart pounding like thunder. When she arrived, Marcus had cooked dinner himself. Fresh truffle pasta, rich Barolo wine from his family vineyard in Tuscany, the kind of romantic effort Jeff Bezos had never even attempted. Candles flickered against the skyline, painting her face in gold and shadow. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered, fingers tightening around her glass. Marcus smiled, moving closer, his cologne wrapping around her like a secret. "And yet, you are." His voice was low, dangerous. "What does that say, Lauren? About you or your marriage?" Her lips trembled as she met his gaze. The truth slipped out like a confession. "It says," she paused, her voice barely audible, "lonely." It came out of her like a confession she'd been choking down for years. "It says," Lauren whispered, eyes glistening, "I married a man who sees me as just another acquisition, not a woman with needs, desires, a heartbeat." And before she could think about what it meant, about the billion-dollar empire waiting back home, Marcus's mouth was on hers. The kiss was unrestrained, hungry, months of pent-up longing and forbidden tension exploding at once. In that instant, the world vanished. The Park Avenue skyline blurred behind glass. She forgot the cameras, the scrutiny, the husband who trusted her with his name, his fortune, his future. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like Mrs. Jeff Bezos, the perfect billionaire's wife on display. She felt like Lauren, a woman, wanted, desired, alive. They tumbled into each other on the couch as the Manhattan sunset painted the sky blood orange. Then again in his bedroom, while the city below glittered like 1,000 silent witnesses. Those few stolen hours cracked something wide open inside her. The comfortable numbness she'd been living in was gone. In its place, a dangerous, intoxicating rush. And that rush became a habit. Over the next few months, their affair spiraled into something bigger, faster, and riskier than either of them expected. Marcus rented a private suite at the Plaza Hotel under a shell company called Suite 1205, complete with Fifth Avenue views and all the discretion money could buy. It became their secret hideaway. He filled it with fresh flowers, stocked it with her favorite champagne, and waited. Lauren, meanwhile, spun increasingly elaborate lies to cover her absences. Fake charity events, phantom lunches with girlfriends out of town, all-day spa treatments that never happened. She even went so far as to hire an actress friend to occasionally appear at public events as her double when an alibi was needed.